Welcome to this second episode of my series about my digital drums. And this time I was planning to talk a little bit more about my drum modules and how I've been testing different alternatives. So I will go into both the drum modules that I'm using and a little bit how I'm combining them and using them in the best way. This is an overview schematics of my drum modules, and the heart of it is a 2-box module, Drumit 3, which is expanded to 32 gigabyte or 64 gigabytes. I have two different SD cards. It's a very flexible module when it comes to both using your own sounds, your own samples, and building your own kits, and also to import different samples from VST that you like. For example, I'm using a lot of sounds from Steven Slate drums. The other module that I'm using is an old flagship module from Roland. Why I'm using two modules is, first of all, the Roland module has some abilities for positioning sensing, which is, although it's an old module, it has all the technology that Roland are famous for, the position sensing on the snare, but also the position sensing on the ride. And I use these two modules together to get the sound from both, to blend them together. So the main out from the Roland goes to the line in on the 2-box module. And all the triggers are connected either to 2-box or to the Roland TD10. And they are also sending MIDI to each other. MIDI out from 2-box to MIDI in on the TD10. And then the Roland sends out MIDI to the 2-box MIDI in, but it goes through a special box. This special box is a MIDI box that I designed myself, and it takes the MIDI data out from Roland, and it sends it to the 2-box MIDI in, but it has some special preparation of MIDI message when it comes to actual position sensing, for example. The Roland sends out the position sensing as CC data, and this box converts the CC data to two different MIDI notes, one for the snare center and another MIDI note for the snare side hits. So it blends these two together depending on how the CC data from the Roland module looks like. Besides the position sensing handling, this MIDI box also handles the choke of the cymbals, because when it comes to 2-box, it actually chokes cymbals with a MIDI note, but the Roland TD10 handles the choke by sending an aftertouch MIDI message. So the aftertouch is converted to the correct MIDI note instead, and therefore you can mute also cymbals that are connected to the Roland TD10. I also use a mixer in the system, and it's connected to the 2-box stereo out. And the reason for using a mixer is that the 2-box module doesn't contain any effects at all except a very simple EQ. So reverb and compression is not easy to add without having an external mixer. So I use that. So now I wanted to show you a little bit how it actually sounds. when I'm blending the two modules together. For example, the tom. This is both modules blended together. And if I just remove the Roland module, sounds like that. So the Roland module adds some punchiness to the toms. Especially when you hit them harder, you get that skin sound more. The same thing goes for the snare. On the snare you also get the position sensing via the Roland module. So if you hit the center, sounds like this, and if you hit the edge, it's more ringing. And if you remove the Roland sound in that, sounds like this. You can actually hear a difference in the position sensing even without the Roland module, and that's because I have been solving that also in the toolbox module. It just uses the information that the Roland TD10 sends out about the position sensing. So what's also good is that you can actually very easily change the volume. So now with full Roland volume 2. Here I also added a possibility for an edge switch, so I can play the edge. And as I said, also the bass drum is something that I like to add some punchiness from the Roland module. That is without. And if I add some from Roland, I can get a much punchier sounding bass drum or kick drum. So I'd also like to show you what is possible to effect with using the mixer and adding different type of reverb or amount of reverb. For example, with tom, if I decrease the amount of reverb, So if I want a very roomy drum, I can play like this with a lot of reverb. And if I remove the reverb, now with reverb again. Of course, when you have two modules like this that you blend together, there's a huge amount of combinations you can use with blending the sounds from one drum type to another drum type on the other module, and when the character is so different from the two modules, it's really great to actually blend two modules together like this. To be honest, the Roland sounds as they are not that good if you look at it with today's eyes. But together with the two-box module, with a much better sound sample library, then you can blend these together and get fantastic results.